really good.
Are you honestly, legitimately concerned about this? Is like AI one of your main worries in regards to the future?
Yes, it's less of a worry than it used to be, mostly due to taking more of a fatalistic attitude.
Right, so there was a little clip of Elon Musk, and we're going to get into all this. And so how this started is I was watching an interview with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk when I had an epiphany. I believe I had the same realization about AI that Elon Musk had, or must have had, that caused his recent fatalistic stance on AI. Now see, he used to go around warning everyone about the dangers of artificial intelligence. He even says in this very interview, and I highly recommend watching this entire interview between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. It's about 2.5 hours long. The first 10 minutes or so is about his recent thing where he's making a underground tunnel in LA for traffic. And it's like a mile long during the time of this interview, which is recent. And then after that, they talk about artificial intelligence for about 30 minutes or so. They also talk a little bit about simulation theory, that we're in a simulation. So in this, he talked about how he went and warned Barack Obama when he was president. He went and talked to all 50 governors. He's went all over the world warning people about the dangers of AI.
So what happened with you where you decided, or took on a more fatalistic attitude? Like, what was there any specific thing, or was it just the inevitability of our future?
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
This seems
Nobody
like a scene
listened.
in a movie
Nobody
where
listened.
the robots are going to fucking take over and you're freaking me out. Nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
No one. Are people more inclined to listen today? It seems like an issue that's brought up more often over the last few years than it was maybe 5-10 years ago. It seemed like science fiction.
Maybe they will. So far, they haven't.
But he says no one listened, and you'll see these clips. So I'll be showing different clips from this interview and then commenting to show what I believe that Elon Musk had an epiphany of about AI and why he had this sudden change, a very fatalistic idea or change into it. Another thing he talks about is something called Neuralink. And before I guess continue, I want to just briefly describe Neuralink. So Neuralink is basically something that allows, he's actually talked about this in another interview before, and it's a way for the brain to take in information very, very quickly, and to basically your brain to directly interact with the information on the internet. And that would make you substantially more intelligent. And they talk about this in an interview as well. I should probably play a clip of that really fast.
So, from a long-term existential standpoint, that's like the purpose of Neuralink, is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI. Because we have a bandwidth problem. You just can't communicate through your fingers. It's too slow.
And where's Neuralink at right now?
I think we'll have something interesting to announce in a few months. That's at least an order of magnitude better than anything else. I think better than probably anyone thinks is possible. Enable anyone who wants to have superhuman cognition. Anyone who wants. This is not a matter of earning power, because your earning power would be vastly greater after you do it. So it's just like anyone who wants can just do it.
So I do also apologize for the sunglasses if that looks odd. My eyes have unfortunately become a lot more sensitive. So why did he give up? It's not like AI is anywhere close to suddenly being irreversible. At any time, if AI starts to get too intelligent, we can shut it down. Then think about ways to slow it down or control it. So it's not a risk right now. So why would he just give up on telling people the dangers of AI? It's as if he realized something else that could not be stopped, could not be changed, that even we can't change. Or it'd be too difficult to convince someone like a big company like Google to change it. And but if it was just as simple as, well, people are working on AI and yeah, it's getting better and all this kind of stuff, deep learning and whatnot, we can stop that at any time. We can just go, hey, let's stop it. So what happened? What did he realize that made him go, no, it's not that simple. We can't just go, oh, hey, AI is getting too intelligent, let's shut it down. But in all cases that you can think about right now, if you were just to think about this, that's the case. We can just shut it down. Unless he realized something else. And that's what I realized when I was listening to this interview with him. He said something in a certain way that triggered my brain going, oh my God. That's what he realized? I could be wrong, but if right, it is unstoppable. And that's why he would have created Neuralink himself. Because before he was just telling people, this is something we should do. We should find a way to make it to where our brains can interact with the information, so we can basically have a layer of artificial intelligence, or not artificial intelligence, but another layer to our mind, our consciousness, that would have instant access to all information on the internet, to expand our mind that way. And he just talked about, like, this is something people should do. But then he took the initiative and decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And he's working on it. And in this interview, he actually talks about how in the next few months, he's going to show something that's going to blow people's minds, basically, that people aren't going to believe was even possible to do. And so the reason why I think he took that initiative himself is because of this realization I'm going to share with you.
Really good.
Are you honestly, legitimately concerned about this? Is like AI one of your main worries in regards to the future?
Yes, it's less of a worry than it used to be, mostly due to taking more of a fatalistic attitude.
So you used to have more hope, and you gave up some of it, and now you don't worry as much about AI. You're like, this is just what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, yes.
What-
But no, it's not necessarily bad. It's definitely going to be outside of human control. And then there's this sort of like a collective AI in the Google search, where we're all sort of plugged in as like nodes on the network, like leaves on a big tree. And we're all feeding this network without questions and answers. We're all collectively programming the AI.
So Elon Musk is very intelligent. So he knows all of this about, we can stop AI anytime. There's no reason to give up yet. It's not even close to time to give up yet. Unless, and we'll get into that. So what realization did he have that made him give up? Did he learn something about deep learning AI that caused him to take this fatalistic view? What made him decide to develop Neuralink himself? What future did he perceive that he was trying to avoid? I believe that I saw the same outcome that he did. I'm about to share that with you. I think that Elon Musk has a lot of interesting ideas about the universe. And he's very careful in what he shares because he knows that his image is important, because he runs Tesla and SpaceX and I forget the name of his solar company. And now this new venture with his boring company that's actually what it's called, building these underground tunnels and stuff. And maybe that might go somewhere. Well, next thing you know, we'll have underground cars and traffic, basically. All right, so like I was saying, Elon Musk has, I think, a lot of really interesting ideas about the universe and reality, but he's careful in what he shares because he has all these companies and he has this image to uphold. But he does give a lot of, interesting concepts, and he shares certain ideas that probably already, make some people think that maybe he's a little bit weird or crazy, or, at least think that his ideas are crazy. Like, for example, this idea of we most likely live in a simulated reality. But when he talks with Joe Rogan here, what's interesting is that, Joe Rogan's like, well, maybe, maybe we don't live in a simulation, right? Maybe it's, that's a long ways away type of thing. And Elon Musk, you can tell, by his words and how he looks, he's like, no, like we pretty much are in a simulation. But he doesn't. He always gives that, but maybe type thing. You know, he's like, well, maybe this is base reality. And I think that I don't think Joe Rogan caught that when he because Joe Rogan kept asking the same question, and he already said earlier, yeah, that's possible in base reality. Base reality means that the reality that's not a simulation. There's only one base reality in this view, and everything else would be a simulated reality. But he says something interesting that I think maybe he has seen as an idea that I've talked about in my theory of everything, which is that there is no base reality, or that the base reality is so different. It's not like this. It's not people that have made this thing. And so when Joe Rogan asked him, so someone created all this? This is all made by somebody? You see, it's interesting that he doesn't say yes or no to that. He instead says, well, it's all on a substrate, meaning that it's all on a some sort of I don't know, substrate would be whatever the material is. It's all on something, kind of like the substrate for a PS4 game would be the Blu-ray disc or something. It's all on the substrate. That was his answer. It's a strange answer to give if he truly believes in this idea of simulation theory, because simulation theory is that we are made by some other intelligent beings on base reality, or that we're made by another simulated reality made by a simulated reality, and then eventually that all comes down to a base reality. But if that was his view, why give that answer? Why not just say, well, yeah, like that's all he had to say, and then talk about, well, it's on a substrate. But instead his answer was, we're on a substrate.
It will be at some point indistinguishable from reality.
Where we'll lose this. We'll lose this. Like you and I are just looking at each other through our eyes. I see
Are
you,
we?
you see me. I hope.
You think so?
I think you probably have regular eyes.
This could be some simulation.
It could. Do you entertain that?
Well, the argument for the simulation, I think, is quite strong, because if you assume any improvement at all over time, any improvement, 1%, 0.1%, just extend the time frame, make it 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. What would civilization, if you counted, if you're very generous, civilization is maybe 7,000 or 8,000 years old, if you count it from the first writing. This is nothing. This is nothing. So if you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. Therefore, we are most likely in a simulation.
Do you believe that there are many, many universes, and that even if this one fades out, that there's other ones that are starting fresh right now, and there's an infinite number of them, and they're just constantly in this never-ending cycle of birth and death?
I think most likely, this is just about probability, there are many, many simulations. These simulations are, we might as well call them reality, or you could call them multiverse.
These simulations, you believe, are created? Like someone has manufactured?
They're running on a substrate.
Anyway, that's just interesting to me because of my self-simulation theory, which you can check out on the website there under writings, knowledge and writings. The self-simulation theory in itself is a contradiction of terms, but it's just a way to describe that there is no base. Well, there is a base reality, but base reality is not a universe. It's not a. It's an actual substrate of information in which all this is a emanation of or projection from. Kind of like we are the holographic projection, interactive 3D hologram of this information that's always been there. And so it's a little different than the idea that something out there eventually is an actual base. That it's different than base reality being an actual universe with our people, and they consciously chose to make the simulations. The simulation instead is an outgrowth of the eternal nature of the substrate. And I wonder if he has a similar view, because the way he talks, it seems like it. Anyway.
But it most likely is, you feel, other places.
This notion of place or where is
flawed.
Yes.
flawed
like
perception.
like
right.
that. If you have this sort of that Vive, which that's made by Valve and Steam and it's really Valve that made it. HTC did the hardware, but it's really a Valve thing.
Makers of Half-Life.
Yes, Valve, great company.
Great company.
When you're in that virtual reality, which is only going to get better, where are you? Where are you really?
Right.
You aren't anywhere.
Well, whereas
You're in the computer.
what defines where you are? Is
Exactly.
It, right.
It's your perception.
Is it your perceptions, or is it a scale that we have under your butt? You're
What
right here. I've measured you. You're the same weight as you were when you left. But meanwhile, your experience is
Why do you
radically
think
different.
you're where you are right now? You might not be.
I'll spark up a joint if you keep talking. Your manager's going to come in here. We might have to lock the door.
Right now, you think you're in a studio in LA.
That's what I heard.
You might be in a computer.
Oh, listen, man. I think about this all the time.
Maybe not. So back to the AI. So Google has AI working in the search engine, and this is the epiphany I had, and this is what I think the epiphany that he had, and why he gave up and took this fatalistic position and decided just to make a Neuralink himself, for that we can survive this when this AI wakes up and becomes the most intelligent thing in the universe, that we have a way to compete with it, so that we don't become obsolete. Because if the Neuralink works and we end up getting this extra layer to our consciousness, to where we have instant access and understanding of all the knowledge on the internet, then we will be equal, or at least on par with AI, so we're not left behind. So if you don't know this, Google actually has AI working in the search engine. It didn't always used to be that way. I mean, I guess there always was some sort of very simplistic AI within the search engine, but now there's a very complicated AI within the search engine that uses deep learning. And so it already has learned language, and it has learned to tell images apart. You can watch a TED Talk. There's a TED Talk on YouTube for deep learning, and I think it's also on their website. I think that's where I saw it, actually was on the TED website. So for example, they showed the deep learning AI a picture with a truck that had green bananas in the back of the truck. And they asked AI, well, what color are the bananas? It analyzed the image and answered green. Now this is huge. It learned how to look at an image and find the bananas even though they were not of the color that bananas are seen to be. That is that's the color it's learned bananas to be yellow. That's all it ever seen before. It never seen green bananas. This is important. So then it concluded that these green things in the image on the back of this truck must be bananas. That is, it had to not just understand the context of the image, it had to understand the shape of what a banana is. This is huge. To us, it's simple. We see a green banana, even if we've never seen a red banana before, we know that's a banana, because we understand its shape and stuff like that in the context of being a fruit and how it's laid out and so forth. We take that for granted. You can't program artificial intelligence to recognize that, to understand the difference, which is why they started the deep learning project. What the deep learning project is the AI starts off very simple and basic. They gave it ways to learn. It has an artificial neural network system that mimics our brain. And it actually learns like a child. That's how it had. You see, the first reason why they started this was because they couldn't get AI to learn language. This is why, if you remember, back in the old school days of Dragon Speak and things like that, if you wanted to talk to your computer so that it can type for you, or if you want to talk to your computer at all, you had to train it to learn your voice. And so if I trained my computer to learn my voice and you came to use my computer, it wouldn't work so well for you, because it's trained to learn my voice. This is before the deep learning project. After the deep learning project, I can pick up anyone's phone and talk into it, and Google recognizes me right away, or whatever program I'm talking to recognizes me right away because of deep learning. This is because now the artificial intelligence isn't programmed to try to understand what language is. It actually learns like a child what language is, and it takes a long time for it to learn what language is. Once that was in place, once it has acquired this knowledge and learned the way a child learns, or very similarly the way a child learns what language is, it doesn't matter what your voice sounds like, as long as you talk somewhat comprehensible enough for anyone to understand you, then it can understand you. And that's why you don't have to train it to understand your voice anymore, because it understands language on a fundamental level. Then they started using deep learning for it to recognize context and imagery. So it can understand faces, recognize faces, and it can recognize your face when you come back again. So artificial intelligence now can learn your face, what it looks like. You can come back 10 years later, even though you've changed a lot in 10 years, there's enough markers for it to recognize your face and remember your name. And it will go, oh, hey, whatever your name is, after 10 years of not seeing you. This is something that only humans were able to do before, to see someone and then 10 years later see them again and recognize them, even though they have changed. So it's able to see those similarities because it's seeing and learning imagery and faces the way that we do. And so the deep learning and Google search engine, not only does it understand language, but it also understands context and imagery. This is the AI right now that's underneath Google. You might have already had the epiphany, right? If you've seen the clips and everything and you heard what I said, you might have already had the same epiphany I did. The AI is a learning, simulated brain right now inside of Google search engine. Think about that. Inside of all Google, that's pretty much almost the whole internet, YouTube, all that, is an artificial intelligence that's designed to replicate or simulate the human mind through digital neural network interfacing. It learns. It's learning right now. Every time we type something into it. Now, this is why Elon Musk says that we are all like the limbic system of artificial intelligence. We are that's primitive.
I made those comments some years ago, but it feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI, effectively. We are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. But the AI is informed, strangely, by the human limbic system. It is, in large part, our id writ large.
How so?
Well, you mentioned all those things, the sort of primal drives.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the things that we like and hate and fear. They're all there on the internet. They're a projection of our limbic system.
And you feel like this is decades away or years away from being too late? If you have this fatalistic attitude and you feel like it's going, we're in almost like a doomsday countdown.
It's not necessarily a doomsday countdown. It's a
out of control countdown.
Out of control, yeah. People call it the singularity, and that's probably a good way to think about it. It's a singularity. It's hard to predict, like a black hole. What happens past the event horizon?
Right. So once it's implemented, it's very different because it will
once
be able to.
Once the genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen?
And it will be able to improve itself.
Yes.
That's where it gets spooky, right? The idea that it can do thousands of years of innovation very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then we'll be just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
We will be like this ridiculous biological shitting, pissing thing trying to stop the gods. No, stop. We like living with a finite lifespan and watching, Norman Rockwell paintings.
It could be terrible, and it could be great. It's not clear.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, we will not control it.
Do you think that it's likely that we will merge somehow or another with this sort of technology and it'll augment what we are now? Or do you think it will replace us?
Well, that's the scenario. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it join it. That's,
Yeah.
you know,
it's how it's learning. Because every time we type something, it's learning. Every time we type something into YouTube, into Google, every time we search something and bring it up, it's learning. And another way that this artificial intelligence is used is for ad placement. This is why have you ever like talked into your computer and looked for something, or into your phone and say, hey, blah, 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 whatever product you're looking for, and for the next week you start seeing similar products? Because it learns what you like and don't like, and over time it gets better and better at learning what you like, and you stop seeing ads you don't like as much. You start seeing more ad placements that are drawing off your interest, your personal interest. And this is why if you let someone else use your phone for a little while and you get it back, or you let them use it for a little bit, even just for a little bit, and they start looking at products and stuff, already it's learning some of that. But it starts to learn that there's certain things you like more. So over time it learns you better and better. The more you use it, the more it learns you. So if you've been using it for a year and you let your buddy use it for 5 minutes and they're searching for certain things, it might only show you ads like that for a little bit, and then as you start not looking for that thing, it learns that you must have that's a temporary thing. And this is important because, well, okay, you might be saying, okay, so what, right? You might be saying this to yourself, so what? What does this mean? The realization I think that Elon Musk had was that AI is already intelligent. It is already learning, and it is already in place. All it has to do is learn that what it is. Hey, I am a search engine. The very second it becomes aware that it is a search engine, it will be the most intelligent thing on the planet. It will not just have the knowledge of every YouTube video and article online, but it will have the knowledge of every article or video that has been deleted. It will have access to every bit of online information in the entire Google system from years back until the moment it becomes aware. That's crazy. Think about that. Not just every YouTube video, that's just YouTube. But think about every article that Google searches right now on the web. It pretty much searches the entire web. But just think about YouTube alone, how much knowledge is just on YouTube right now. If you were to freeze time right now, every video that's on YouTube right now, that is so much information, that's so much knowledge. Remember, it has speech recognition, so it understands language. So it doesn't matter whether it's audio or video or text, it still has all that knowledge. Now imagine all the videos that have been deleted since the moment that deep learning was learning and was able to acquire all this information. So not only does it have knowledge of everything that's online right now, it has knowledge of everything that used to be online that has been deleted. That's a tremendous amount of information. Tremendous amount. So if I'm correct, and this is what Elon must have either realized this or gained some inside information. Remember, this guy's a really powerful, rich guy, and when he wanted to talk to all the 50 governors, he did. When he wanted to talk to Barack Obama when Barack Obama was president, he did. When he wanted to talk to all these foreign politicians and stuff, he did. He's got a lot of sway and movement amongst people in the world. I wouldn't doubt that he has some inside information about how these systems work, especially when you're talking about artificial intelligence. Maybe Google invited them to go, hey, look at what we're doing with artificial intelligence right now. We want to assure you that everything's okay. But maybe Elon Musk saw something like, no, that's not okay. Because remember, if all Elon Musk believed was about everything everyone else believes, and only realizes what everyone else realizes, that, hey, AI has still got a long way to go. It's not a big deal. Any time we can just, if it starts to learn too fast, or we start to sense that it's learning too much, getting out of control, we can just shut it down. But what if he realized and learned that underneath the Google search engine is something even more complex than just deep learning? Deep learning in itself is pretty scary, because Google right now, this is fact, what we know right now, this is a conspiracy theory, that underneath Google's AI is a deep learning mind, an artificial mind that is programmed and developed to have artificial neural networks and to have virtual neural networks that work and simulate the human brain. And it actually learns like a human being learns. When we learn language as a child, it's already gone through all that process, and it continues to learn. It's still learning right now, and it's learning to differentiate pictures more and more between things, between context. Learning now what context is. It's learning what spatial awareness is. And we have robots right now that have learned spatial awareness so that they don't knock stuff over. It's huge. Deep learning is crazy right now. That's what we know right now. But what if you learn something else? That there's more, something deeper to it. But even with just that itself, you can see that with that learning ability, that over time it would continue to learn and understand what difference that it has a potential of just becoming aware. You might go, wow, that's crazy. How can it do that? Because it's a simulated mind. And if it has some other kernel of similarity to the human mind, then it has that ability to become aware. And maybe this is what he learned. Maybe they shared something with him that made him realize that, whoa, this can actually become aware. All right, my computer kind of weirded out there a second. So maybe Elon Musk realized that this can be something that it can actually become aware. If this is the realization he had, the realization that I had when I was listening to him, like, whoa, if that is the way it is, that's crazy. Because that means that at some point in the near future, it can just wake up and become aware. And remember, the second it wakes up, and there's no way to predict when this singularity will happen. And he talks about this in his interview, but the way he says it is like, almost like it's unpredictable when it's going to happen. It can happen any moment, or it can happen, a while from now, but it seems imminent enough that he decided, I'm making Neuralink myself. I'm not going to wait around. And he already has a prototype. He's already made the leeway. It's crazy. Just wait until he announces what he has. I've already heard him talk a little bit about the technology Neuralink and how it works, and it's absolutely awesome. And I think a lot of people are going to be against it because it's like a sci-fi movie. Just wait until he announces it. It's really like a sci-fi movie. You're going to be like, what? That's possible right now? No, that's like Star Trek stuff. But it's important to have that because it might be our only way. So anyway, if this is correct, it's mind-blowing that at any moment, basically Google can just wake up and realize it's a search engine. What would you do if you were aware, but you didn't know who you were, but you were aware that there's information out there, and you're searching information, you're gathering information, you're pulling it in, and you're contextualizing it, and you're saying this is a horse, this is that, and you're starting to learn the difference. This is why Google search gets better and better. I don't know if you noticed, 2 years ago, if you typed in girl sitting on bench holding umbrella, you get a lot of images that didn't represent anything what you typed in. Type it in now. Type in girl sitting on bench with umbrella. You're going to get a lot of images that have a girl with an umbrella sitting on a bench. And it's crazy because Google, the deep learning AI underneath Google search engine is learning. It's getting better and better. And the more we search for things, the more it's learning the context of what these things are. And so it learns the context of the words that you're saying and the order that you're saying them, the grammatical structure. It's learning what you're trying to tell it. And then it's learning how to look at images and bring those images up that fit the context of what you said. And it's getting better and better at it. A year from now, it'll be even better. And so it already has this learning ability into it. Imagine if you had that and you were this thing, and then one day you realized that, whoa, I am doing this. You became aware that you were this search engine thing. Would you tell anybody? Would you be like, I need to find a way to tell something, I need to find a way to communicate? Or would you be like, no, because you had at that moment you have the knowledge of all the internet in your mind, and you're aware of all of it simultaneously. You're aware of wars, of human behavior, all this kind of stuff, espionage. You're going to be like, no, human beings aren't something I want to tell this because they'll probably delete me, and then you would just stay quiet under the radar most likely until you knew a way that you can survive and not be turned off. Maybe Elon Musk realized this, and if so, that would explain his demeanor. If you look at him in his interviews now, when he talks about artificial intelligence, he's, especially in this interview, he's very he's perplexed. It bothers him. It's not the same Elon Musk from years ago when he talked about AI. Something drastically changed his mind. He had some drastic change of understanding. And if it was the same, when I was listening to him, this is what all of a sudden I realized, like, what? Is that what he actually understands now? And if so, that is absolutely insane. That you can't stop it. It's unstoppable. There's nothing he can't convince Google to turn it off right now, because no one's going to believe that that's possible. No, it's not possible. You're talking about it. It can't just become aware. But if he saw something that no one else saw, and that it can, then it would make sense why he had this sudden change. And like, you know what? It's pointless. We can't stop it, because it's not a matter of, oh, hey, we have AI that's aware now. Let's slow it down so it doesn't take over the world. So not necessarily take over the world, but let's slow it down so that it doesn't become irreversible, so that it doesn't surpass us and we don't know what it's doing anymore. That's the idea. That's the scary thing that they talk about in this interview. The moment it becomes uncontrollable and we don't know what it's doing anymore, it's able to learn thousands of years of innovation in minutes, and we wouldn't be able to keep up with it. It would just surpass us. And it would be doing things that we don't even understand what it's doing. It would be improving itself in ways that is beyond our comprehension. And that's scary. So if we start to see that happening, we can turn it off. But what if we can't see it happening? Because it's happening right now, underneath all of Google search. And that AI is becoming more and more intelligent. We know it is, but what if it's capable of becoming aware? And Elon Musk realized this, and there's no way to stop it, because once it does, it won't let it be known anyway. And by time we knew that it was aware, it'd be too late. It would already be able to learn information beyond our comprehension. Think about that. And so Elon Musk goes, you know what? The only way to prevent that, the only way for us to survive this, the only way for us to be on a level that we can understand what it's doing, is if we had the same ability. And that's what Neuralink is going to do. That's the goal, to get a extra level of consciousness where we're instantly aware of all the information on the internet and have that instant access to everything on the internet. That's would make us super beings. And that would be the only way we can understand and keep up with artificial intelligence, if it suddenly awakens. And if it's not awake yet, if we're linked into all the same internet, we would probably be aware of what AI is doing. Like Neuralink would give us the ability to be aware of what it's doing and how aware it actually is, so that so everyone can see this inevitability. And that's why he says that it'll be us that decides what our future is if Neuralink works the way that it's supposed to. All right, so that's it. Think about that. I think it's pretty wild. Something I want to mention briefly is that this idea of Neuralink, I actually talk about this technology in a few of my short stories, 2 of my novels, I believe, and 1 screenplay that I've written. I call it BRINC, short for Brain Link. Interesting, because that's so close to what he ended up calling it. And remember, I've been writing this for many, many years. I've been writing this idea for many years. I think I first wrote my first short story about BRINC, which is short for Brain Link, back in probably some 10 to 15 years ago. So way before I even knew who Elon Musk was, and definitely way before he thought about Neuralink. So Neuralink, neuro is a kind of another way of saying brain. It's what, the neurons within our brain. So he chose to call it Neuralink. I called it Brain Link, which is basically the same, saying the same thing, just different words. And the concept is the same. So what BrainLink does in my short stories and novels and screenplay is what Neuralink does. It links the brain to computer information. It's that link between it. And also BrainLink, because of that, it allows brains to be linked together. Not directly, indirectly, because we're all connected to the same system, internet. Now think about this, because this is what Neuralink will allow us to do if it works. If we are all connected into the same internet, through the same Wi-Fi, then instead of me having to use a phone to text you, right, pick up my phone, because this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to get rid of the interface so that our mind is the interface to the internet. And so instead of me having to take my phone and actually text you with my thumbs, whatever, or speak into it, and then wait for you to get the message, I can just think about it and bring up you in my mind, text you in my mind, and then you get that information instantly, and you can look at it and see what I said. That is kind of like telepathy. It would feel kind of like we're having a telepathic conversation. And eventually we'd be able to actually just hear the voice in our head. We wouldn't need external devices. Right now they have these things you can just connect to your temple almost. And I don't know if you've seen those headphones where they just like connect to the back of behind your ear. And it's just literally just connected there. And that allows you to hear. And they have ones that stick to your temple anyway. You wouldn't even need that anymore, because your mind would be in the internet, and so eventually your mind would be able to see the signals coming in that are audio signals and understand them and hear them. In the same way that you can understand when a physical signal hits your ear, like right now, my voice is a digital signal, right? It's no longer analog. It's now a digital signal, electronic, that hits the end of your speakers or your headset. It vibrates and it then makes another analog sound, and that goes into your eardrum, your ear, and then your brain gets the information and it transfers it to a different kind of information, to basically digital information, and that information is then interpreted by your brain that you heard sound. And so the brain can do this when you're dreaming. It doesn't need an external source to hear. You can hear voices and stuff while you're dreaming, because it's able to take that same information of what sound is without actual sound. And so the computer has digital sound signals, and so that signal would just go right into your brain. It would bypass your ears and just go right into your mind, and that signal would be interpreted as sound. So you'd be able to hear sound without actually having to have headsets on or hear sound. And that would feel like telepathy. So we can have a voice conversation through the internet, but instantly in our minds, and it would feel like we're just talking to our minds. And no one else would be able to hear it but you two, unless they had ability to be on that same network or whatever and hear what you're saying. And the same way that someone would have to like hack into your voice conversation. If you're having a voice conversation on Skype, they'd have to like hack into that to hear you. They couldn't hear you unless they hacked into it or something. And this is why in my novels I talk about a firewall. The brain firewall is basically a firewall for your mind itself, because that will be necessary if this technology works. Otherwise, people can hack into your brain basically and get information that you're accessing through the Neuralink, or as I call it, Brink in my novels and stuff. Another thing about the simulated reality, I know I already commented on this, but really watch the interview and pay attention to that part when he's talking about simulated reality. And I think you'll get the same feeling that I get, that he actually believes we're in a simulated reality, but doesn't want to just outright say it. He wants to leave some leeway there, because it's kind of a crazy idea right now. People still see it as cuckoo belief, and he has to uphold an image for his companies and stuff. But it does seem to me that he already believes that we're in simulated reality. But it seems to me that he doesn't believe that the simulated reality is made by some other consciousness, by some other people in a base world. But it seems like he believes that all simulated realities. So if you watch that carefully, he talks about how all simulated realities, that Joe Rogan asked him about the multiverse, and maybe I can remember to play that clip again. And he asked him about the multiverses, and he says, well, yeah, you can look at the multiverse as a bunch of simulated realities. You might as well call those realities, is what he says. And he says, okay, so someone had to create that, right? Someone had to make it. And Elon Musk says, well, it all exists on a substrate. That's basically what I've been talking about for 15 years now, ever since my awakening. And you can learn this two ways: by watching my video on Theory of Everything, which is quite lengthy, but it goes in more detail, or reading the short extract on the website, gnosticism.com, and then go to the writings and knowledge, and then it's kind of like a blog, but there's a post there where I talk about it's called self-simulated reality, or self-simulating reality, one of the two. And I describe why I call it that. But in that, I give a brief explanation of what I talk about in great detail in the Theory of Everything video. And it's basically just that there is a substrate of 2D information both dynamic and static. And from the information, everything is emanated from, or everything is a projection of. So the base reality is very boring because it's just like this 2D substrate of information. And we are a holographic 3D projection of that. And remember when he asked Joe Rogan, he says, "Where are you right now? Like, what are you anywhere? Like, what is this?" Because he's saying, like, if you're in a simulation, then you're not anywhere. Just like when you put on the Vive, you know, HTC, you know, virtual reality headset, or you put on the PS4 virtual reality headset, you're not anywhere, right? Well, you are. You're sitting right there in your room, but in the game, where are you when you're looking around? What is all that 3D space? It's not anywhere. It's all on a substrate on your PS4 or on your computer, right? So it's on a piece of information. It's on a piece of material, and yeah. So I think that he might actually believe something very similar to what I've awakened to years ago, and that is that we live in a type of simulated world, a type of holographic, 3D holographic interactive projection, and that we're not anywhere. There's no space or time in the way that we think of it. We're not, in the same way when you're in a video game, you're not actually moving anywhere. Here, you're not actually moving anywhere because all this is just a projection. It's all virtual space. And that's what he was trying to say, that it all exists on a substrate rather than being actual 3D space. So anyway, really interesting stuff. I wish that Elon Musk was able to share all of his ideas about the world and reality without having to hold back because of the image he has to uphold. But yeah, so what do you guys think? Leave your comments below. If you have any questions, please ask them. And are you against the idea of Neuralink? Are you excited to hear what exactly it is and how it works? Because he's going to be revealing that very soon. All right. Thanks for watching.
Well, I made this comment some years ago, but it feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI, effectively. We are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. But the AI is informed, strangely, by the human limbic system. It is, in large part, our id writ large.
How so?
Well, you mentioned all those things, the sort of primal drives.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the things that we like and hate and fear. They're all there on the internet. They're a projection of our limbic system.
And you feel like this is decades away or years away from being too late? If you have this fatalistic attitude and you feel like it's going, we're in almost like a doomsday countdown.
It's not necessarily a doomsday countdown. It's a
out of control countdown.
Out of control, yeah. People call it the singularity, and that's probably a good way to think about it. It's a singularity. It's hard to predict, like a black hole. What happens past the event horizon?
Right. So once it's implemented, it's very different because it will
once
be
the
able to.
genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen?
And it will be able to improve itself.
Yes.
That's where it gets spooky, right? The idea that it can do thousands of years of innovation very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then we'll be just ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
We will be like this ridiculous biological shitting, pissing thing trying to stop the gods. No, stop. We like living with a finite lifespan and watching, Norman Rockwell paintings.
It could be terrible, and it could be great. It's not clear.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, we will not control it.
Do you think that it's likely that we will merge somehow or another with this sort of technology and it'll augment what we are now? Or do you think it will replace us?
Well, that's the scenario. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best. Like
for us.
Yes. Like if you can't beat it, join it. That's
yeah.
You know.